Have you ever entered a room expecting one thing, only to discover something that changes everything? That was exactly what happened to me one ordinary night. I thought I was walking down the hall to say goodnight to my son. Instead, I opened a door that would force me to question everything I believed about love, loyalty, and the life I had carefully built around myself. My name is Sarah, and for most of my adult life, I was known simply as Liam's mom. We lived in a modest two-story house on a quiet street where nothing dramatic ever seemed to happen. The neighbors knew each other by name, children rode their bikes until sunset, and every Friday evening smelled of backyard barbecues and freshly cut grass. It was the kind of place where life felt predictable and safe. For years, predictability had been enough for me. After my divorce 8 years earlier, my world had narrowed to a single focus: raising my son. Liam was 13 when his father left. Overnight, I became the parent who attended every school event, paid every bill, fixed every broken appliance, and stayed awake worrying about things no child should ever have to notice. It wasn't easy, but we survived. Now Liam was 18, preparing for college and standing on the edge of adulthood. Sometimes I would catch myself staring at him and wondering where all the years had gone. The little boy who once needed bedtime stories now spent most of his time with friends, sports, and plans for a future that no longer revolved around me. I was proud of him. But pride didn't erase the loneliness. Some evenings, after the dishes were washed and the house had gone quiet, I would sit alone in the living room and realize how empty the rooms felt. My life had become a routine of responsibilities. Wake up. Work. Cook. Clean. Sleep. Repeat. Somewhere along the way, I had forgotten who I was outside of being a mother. One constant presence throughout those years had been Liam's best friend, Noah. The two boys had met in middle school and quickly became inseparable. Noah practically lived at our house. He was there for movie nights, birthday parties, soccer celebrations, and countless weekends spent gaming in Liam's room. Back then, he was just another kid. A lanky teenager with messy hair and an endless appetite who never remembered to take off his muddy shoes before coming inside. I had watched him grow up alongside my son. I had bandaged scraped knees, handed him snacks after practice, and listened to the boys laugh so loudly that I could hear them from the other side of the house. To me, Noah had always been part of the family. At least, that's what I thought. Then came that night. The house was wrapped in silence, the kind that only settles after midnight. A faint light glowed beneath Liam's bedroom door as I made my way down the hallway. I expected to find my son awake, scrolling through his phone when he should have been sleeping. What I found instead changed everything. I paused outside the door for a moment, my hand resting on the frame. Liam's probably still awake, I muttered to myself with a smile. Some habits never changed. No matter how old he got, he always found a reason to stay up later than he should. I pushed the door open quietly. The room was dim except for the warm glow of a bedside lamp. For a second, my eyes adjusted to the darkness. Then I realized the person sitting on the edge of the bed wasn't Liam. It was Noah. He sat with his elbows resting on his knees, staring thoughtfully toward the floor. The blanket-covered figure beside him was Liam, asleep and completely unaware of my presence. Noah looked up at the sound of the door. Our eyes met. Something about that brief moment felt strangely different. Not wrong. Just unfamiliar. I immediately noticed details I had never paid attention to before. His face had matured over the years. The awkwardness of adolescence had disappeared, replaced by quiet confidence. His shoulders were broader now, his features sharper. For reasons I couldn't explain, I suddenly became aware of how much time had passed. The boy I remembered wasn't a boy anymore. Sorry, I said quickly. I thought Liam was awake. Noah smiled. He was trying to finish a movie, he replied quietly. Made it about 20 minutes before passing out. I laughed softly. That sounds like him. The tension should have disappeared then. It didn't. Instead, an unexpected silence settled between us. Noah glanced toward Liam before looking back at me. "You've always taken care of everyone," he said. The comment caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "I don't know. You've always been there. For Liam. For me. For everybody." I folded my arms lightly. "That's what parents do." "Maybe," he said. "But not all of them." Something in his voice made me pause. Over the years, I had heard pieces of Noah's home life. His parents argued constantly. Sometimes he stayed at our house because things felt easier there than at home. I suddenly understood what he meant. The house had become more than a place for him to hang out. It had become a refuge. "Noah." He offered a small smile. "I'm serious. You probably don't realize it, but this place has meant a lot to me." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The words touched me more than I expected. As a parent, so much of life feels invisible. You spend years sacrificing, worrying, and showing up every day without knowing whether any of it matters. Hearing someone acknowledge it felt strangely emotional. "Thank you," I said quietly. His smile softened. "You deserve to hear it." My chest tightened unexpectedly. I looked away first. The room suddenly felt too small. Too warm. I reached down and adjusted Liam's blanket unnecessarily, trying to focus on something practical. When I straightened up again, Noah was watching me. Not in a way that felt inappropriate. Just attentive. Present. As though he saw something beyond the role I played in everyone else's lives. The realization unsettled me. Because I couldn't remember the last time anyone had looked at me that way. After the divorce, most conversations revolved around schedules, responsibilities, work, or parenting. Somewhere over the years, Sarah the woman had quietly disappeared behind Sarah the mother. Yet standing there in the dim light, I felt seen. The thought frightened me. "Well," I said, forcing a smile. "I'd better let you get some sleep." Noah nodded. "Good night, Sarah." I froze slightly. He almost always called me Mrs. Parker. For some reason, hearing my first name sounded different. More personal. More real. "Good night, Noah." I stepped into the hallway and gently closed the door behind me. The click of the latch echoed through the silence. As I walked back toward my bedroom, I told myself I was overthinking everything. It had been an ordinary conversation. Nothing more. Yet long after I climbed into bed, sleep refused to come. My mind replayed every word. Every glance. Every feeling I couldn't quite explain. And deep down, a question lingered that I wasn't ready to answer. Why had tonight felt so different? Why had tonight felt so different? The question followed me through the next few days. Every morning, I woke up determined to forget about that conversation. Every night, I found myself thinking about it again. Not because of anything Noah had done, but because of what his words had stirred inside me. For years, my entire identity had revolved around being Liam's mother. My needs, my dreams, even my social life had slowly faded into the background. I had become so focused on taking care of everyone else that I had stopped asking myself what I wanted. Now, with Liam preparing to leave for college, I found myself standing at the edge of a future I hadn't planned for. An empty nest. An empty house. An empty version of myself. One Saturday afternoon, Liam and Noah were helping clean out the garage before college move-in season. I watched from the doorway as they laughed over old soccer trophies and dusty boxes of childhood memories. The sight made me smile. Then it hit me. They were growing up. Their lives were beginning. And I had spent so much time looking backward that I hadn't considered what might come next for me. That evening, after the boys left to meet friends, I sat alone on the back porch with a notebook. For the first time in years, I wrote down things I wanted for myself. Travel. Photography. Painting. maybe even dating someday. The list felt strange. Almost selfish. But it also felt exciting. The following months brought change. Liam left for college. The day I helped carry the last box into his dorm room, I cried all the way home. The house felt impossibly quiet afterward. Yet little by little, I began building a life beyond motherhood. I joined a community art class. Made new friends. Started saying yes to opportunities one would have ignored before. And through it all, Noah remained what he had always been, an important part of our extended family. Years later, when I look back on that night outside Liam's bedroom, I realize it wasn't the beginning of a love story. It was the beginning of a different kind of journey. A journey back to myself. Sometimes life changes not because another person enters your world, but because they remind you that you've forgotten who you are. And maybe that's the most important kind of change there is. Because sometimes, life doesn't change in loud, dramatic moments. Sometimes it changes quietly, in a hallway, in a single conversation, in a realization you were never really lost, just paused. If this story made you reflect on your own life, your choices, or the parts of yourself you may have put aside, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoy emotional stories like this, stories about life, change, and the moments that shape who we become, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.